heavens, are you up here again in the attic? Well, in that case, we might as well go ahead and do another one of those Mask Fan Attic segments you like so much that involve exploration of the attic to find cool old Halloween masks of the past. And tonight's mask, what do you know? There just happens to be one up here tonight. It's none other than Old Age Dracula, sometimes known as Old Man Dracula, from the movie Bram Stoker's Dracula. That's right. Now this piece here was sculpted by the amazingly talented and wonderful Henry Alvarez of Alvarez Wax Models. Henry was one of the best things that ever happened to the world of collectible masks and monster prop collecting. And he was a great friend too, and we all miss Henry very much. But while he was here, we were lucky enough to have him do some wonderful masks that we can all enjoy years later, one of which was this guy, the Old Man, as in Gary Oldman, Dracula. Now if you saw Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie, you may remember Gary Oldman as this Dracula who changed several times throughout the film. This obviously was from the early part of the movie, at which point in the story Dracula is an elderly, wrinkled, ancient old man. And before I go any further, there's one important point I need to clarify with this mask, okay? When I say you're looking at Old Man Dracula, okay, or Old Age Dracula, I want to be very clear in pointing out that what I'm referring to is what's on this side of the screen, okay, over here. This is Old Age Dracula. I realize what's on this side of your screen could also be thought of as Old Man Dracula and could be mistaken for Old Man or Old Age Dracula, but no, see, this is what I'm talking. Okay, you got that? Okay, just going to make sure we're clear on that. Now, Old Age Dracula here is one of four masks from the movie Bram Stoker's Dracula that were sculpted by Henry and released to the public by Cinema Secrets, a company that had been around for a long time, specializing in makeup, different kinds of stage makeup, prosthetics, and so forth, and eventually got into masks in the 80s and 90s. And in 1992-93, the 92-93 season, which was around the time the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie came out, the masks came out. Now, unfortunately, I don't have one of the mass-produced ones to show you. This one came from Henry Alvarez's original mold, and there were some copies like that that Henry cast up for friends and collectors that he knew, but the majority of them were the Cinema Secrets mass-produced, production version, and the Cinema Secrets ones came in two styles. That's right, two styles. There was the standard and the deluxe, and the standard had no hair. This is all sculpted underneath here. You can't tell it, but it has sculpted hair with hair glued on over it. The standard had sculpted hair with no actual hair added to it, and it had the eyes cut out. The deluxe version had some white hair glued on over the white sculpted hair and had painted in bloodshot red eyes, and then slits above the eyes for people to see out of. I think at the time everybody thought, or somebody must have thought, this movie was going to be such a huge hit that everyone was going to want to go as Old Age Dracula, as the new Dracula of the 90s at Halloween. And as it turned out, even though the movie has a lot of things going for it, the characterization of Dracula turned out to be not much of a threat to the memory of Bela Lugosi's rather more definitive and long-lasting, permanent Dracula characterization. So even though the Dame Edna Everage Dracula was pretty cool in the context of the movie, still it didn't make the impact that Lugosi did back in 1931 when he was Dracula in a Dracula movie. So despite this movie's relative success, if you ask people what Dracula wears, they're going to describe what Bela Lugosi wore. If you ask them to talk like Dracula, they're going to think you're weird. But the ones who play along and don't have you arrested or anything like that are going to do a Bela Lugosi accent. Now, this guy actually had kind of a Bela Lugosi accent. He was one of the very few movie Draculas, other than Lugosi, to have a Hungarian accent when he spoke in a non-comedy version. A lot of the spoofy, goofy comic Draculas had Lugosi-style accents, but very unusual for a serious one too. But this movie did. Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola in 1992, I believe. Well, it was released in 92. Probably directed in 1991 if it was released in 92. Wouldn't you say? No, you wouldn't, but I would. So you don't need to. Now, this version was haired by my long-suffering wife, Laura, and it quickly became her least favorite mask in the whole world to hair. Okay? You probably can't tell. This has hairpins and bobby pins and a hairnet and all this deluxe stuff to make it look as authentic and plausible as possible, and it has the long braid down the back, which he did have in the movie. Now the deluxe version of the Cinema Secrets version of this mask, the deluxe one didn't have a braid in the back. The hair just stopped there. And even though it was pretty nice, I don't care for the hair that Cinema Secrets was using at that time. It was this very plasticky looking stuff. It just didn't look real to me. But, you know, in a pinch, is okay. They also made, in addition to Old Age Dracula here, they also made Vampire Dracula. And I know it can be argued that Dracula is always a vampire, but they had to give it some kind of name. So another version from later in the movie was called the Vampire version, confusingly sometimes also known as the Old Age Vampire version. And then there was the Bat and the Wolf, or Werewolf, because at different points in the movie Dracula turns into a big bat monster, and another time he turns into a big wolf monster, you see. So there were 4 of them, and all of those were available from Cinema Secrets. Now these were pretty readily available. They were pretty easy to come by. Again, the movie wasn't as big a hit as everybody thought, so the cheaper versions of these masks were, you know, pretty common to see for a few years there in the early 90s. The Alvarez versions never became common because Henry only made a few from his original molds, so you never would have seen them like in, you know, costume shops or anything. But the costume shop versions were around for a while. They were available. I don't see them today anywhere, but somebody still may have a box of them, you know, socked away somewhere, maybe in an attic. Not this one though. This is the only one in the attic. I know these things. I come up here every week, you know. Now, in addition to the 4 masks, they also made a costume, but the costume only went with this one. It was a red robe that was called just a Dracula costume. It was a floor-length red thin satin robe emblazoned with these iron-ons of gold dragons on the breast area, and then it had a sort of white dicky shirt front with a collar that you'd wear underneath it. And when the mask proved not to be the big hit everybody expected it to be, because the movie didn't prove to be the big hit everybody expected it to be, those costumes, those red robes with the gold dragons on the chest, ended up being marketed later on as Chinese emperor robes. So if you see a Chinese emperor robe advertised somewhere in a costume shop or a costume catalog or a costume website, take a good look at that Chinese emperor robe, because it could be a renamed Dracula costume. I have one of the Dracula robes from Cinema Secrets, and it's pretty cool. It's decent. They were inexpensive. As for the masks, the standard version, which had no hair and the eyes cut out, that version sold for around 50 bucks. The deluxe version that had the glued on hair and painted in eyes sold for around 80 bucks. Back in the day, that's 1993-ish in there. I don't know what you'd pay for one now, but I'm guessing it would be considerably more than that if it's in good shape. But still a pretty cool mask. Anyway, you slice it. It's a very nice mask, I think. And again, anything sculpted by Henry. I just love Henry's sculpting style. His masks have so much character. So until next time, I'll just be up here with Dracula, trying to figure out who Buford Farnsworth was.